Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into the digital abyss, back to the Wild West days of the early internet. This was a time of dial-up tones, pixelated graphics, and a sense of discovery that's hard to find today. But lurking in the dark corners of Usenet groups and forgotten FTP servers were files that were different. Files that seemed to carry a strange weight, a story that went beyond just code and pixels. We're going to talk about one of the most infamous of these, a file that has haunted the web for decades, known only by its cryptic name, Lake_Scenery, GIF. Now, I know what you're thinking, a GIF, like a dancing cat or a movie clip. Not exactly. Back then, GIF was just a common image format, and this particular GIF started circulating in the late 1990s, usually attached to emails with no subject line or posted on obscure image boards without any context. At first glance, it was nothing special. It depicted a serene, almost unnaturally calm lake surrounded by dense, dark woods. The sky was a pale, washed-out gray, and the water was like a mirror, reflecting the bleakness above. It was a low-resolution, slightly grainy image, typical of the era. Many people who saw it simply deleted it, thinking it was just some random, poorly composed photo, but some looked closer. Those who spent more than a few seconds looking at Lake_Scenery, GIF reported a strange feeling, a sense of unease, a feeling of being watched. They'd say the scene, while static, felt alive. The shadows among the trees seemed to shift and writhe at the edge of their vision. Some even claimed to see a figure, a tall, slender shape, standing just within the tree line on the far shore. When they'd try to zoom in, the pixels would just distort the figure, dissolving into a meaningless block of color, but the feeling remained. It was like one of those optical illusions, except this one felt malevolent. The legend began to grow online. People started sharing their experiences on forums and in chat rooms. The stories were surprisingly consistent. Users would open the file, feel an overwhelming sense of dread, and then close it, trying to shake off the creepy vibe. But for a small number of them, the story didn't end there. These users reported that after viewing the image, strange things would start to happen. Their computers would act up, files would go missing, or they'd hear faint, distorted whispers coming from their speakers, even when no audio was playing. One of the most famous accounts comes from a user known as Cisadmin78. In a now-deleted forum post from 1999, he described his encounter with a file. He was an IT professional, skeptical of all things supernatural. He downloaded Lake_Scenery, GIF, out of curiosity, to debunk the growing myth. He opened it, noted the poor quality, and felt nothing. He laughed it off and went about his day. But that night he was woken up by his computer turning on by itself. On the screen was the image, Lake_Scenery, GIF. This time, he said, it looked different. The sky in the image had a faint reddish tint, and the reflection in the water seemed distorted. And the figure in the woods, he swore it was closer to the water's edge. Freaked out, he unplugged the computer from the wall, but the stories from others kept pouring in. Another user claimed that after viewing the image, they started having vivid nightmares of drowning in a cold, dark lake, pulled under by something with long, thin arms. They said the face of the entity in their dreams was just a blur, a smudge of pixels, just like the figure in the GIF. The file was becoming a genuine piece of internet folklore, a digital ghost story. So, what was actually going on? Skeptics, of course, had their theories. The most common explanation was simple mass hysteria, or what we now call a creepypasta. A compelling story gets told, and people's imaginations fill in the blanks. The power of suggestion is incredibly strong. You're told an image is haunted, you look at it expecting to be scared, and your brain obliges by playing tricks on you. The shifting shadows, just your eyes getting tired from staring at a lurid screen. The figure, a classic case of pareidolia where our brains find patterns, like faces or figures, in random noise. Another theory was that the file itself was a virus, or some kind of malware. This would explain the computer glitches, the missing files, and maybe even the weird audio. A clever programmer could have embedded a Trojan horse into the image file. When opened, it would infect the system. The haunting was just a sophisticated prank designed to scare people. This is a plausible explanation, and there were indeed many image-based viruses back in the day. Investigators and amateur sleuths tried to analyze the file's code, searching for anything malicious. They ran it through every antivirus program available and they found nothing. The file appeared to be a completely standard benign GIF. This is where the story takes an even stranger turn. As people tried to trace the origin of Lake_Scenery, GIF, they found it was almost impossible. It seemed to appear simultaneously in dozens of different places online, with no clear source. It was as if it just materialized. Some researchers tried to find the real-world location of the lake. They used early geolocation tools, cross-referenced landscape features, but nothing matched. The lake in the picture, as far as anyone could tell, did not exist on any map. It was a place from nowhere. The mystery deepened. Forum threads dedicated to the file would mysteriously get corrupted and deleted. People who claimed to have original copies of the file found that their hard drives would crash, or the file would simply vanish. It became notoriously difficult to find a working version of Lake_Scenery GIF. It was like the file itself didn't want to be found or analyzed. It wanted to remain a mystery, a whisper in the dark. Then, a new theory emerged, one that blended the technical with the paranormal. This theory proposed that the file was a type of digital egregore. An egregore is an occult concept for a thought form or collective entity created by a group of people through their combined thoughts and emotions. The idea was that the collective fear, dread, and belief poured into the legend of Lake_Scenery GIF had actually given it a form of consciousness. It wasn't a ghost in the machine, but a ghost asterisk made of asterisk the machine, fed by human emotion. The file wasn't haunted. Our fear was what haunted it, and in turn it reflected that fear back at us. This might sound like science fiction, but it resonated with many people who had experienced the file's unsettling effects. It explained why the experiences were so personal and yet so similar. It explained why the file seemed to react to being investigated. It was a feedback loop of fear. The more people were scared of it, the more powerful and strange it became. The image itself was just a vessel, a focal point for all that dark energy. Over the years, the original Lake_Scenery GIF has become a ghost itself. The internet has changed. What you'll find today if you search for it are almost certainly recreations, fakes made to look like the original based on witness descriptions. The real file, if it ever truly existed in the way people described, is lost to the digital ether, buried under decades of dead links and decommissioned servers. But the story lives on. It serves as a powerful reminder of a time when the internet was a new and mysterious frontier. A place where anything felt possible, including the idea that a simple image file could be a window to somewhere else. It speaks to a fundamental human fear, the fear of the unknown, and the fear that our own technology could harbor things beyond our comprehension. So, was Lake_Scenery GIF a clever virus, a mass delusion fueled by a creepy picture, or was it something more, something born from the collective subconscious of the early internet? We'll likely never know for sure, and maybe that's the point. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to make us wonder, to question the boundary between our world and the digital one we've created. They're meant to remind us that even in a world of logic and code, there are still shadows where monsters can hide. What do you think? Have you ever encountered a file or a piece of media online that just felt wrong? Let me know your stories in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you enjoyed this trip down the dark alleys of internet history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the unexplained. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.